This is, well, maybe rocket science, but we know how to do it. I mean, in my state, and I suspect in your state, I've helped bring in a lot of money, which, for example, weatherizes people's homes. We have reduced fuel consumption and fuel bills by 50%. We should do that all over America. We should be moving our energy system away from fossil fuel, and not only to energy efficiency, but sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, and other technologies. And when we do that, by the way, we create good-paying jobs in America, and we lead the world. We can't do it alone. Climate change is a global issue, but we can work with China and Russia and other countries to make that transformation. This is a moral issue that we have got to address. Let me touch on another issue that is getting a lot of resonance all over the country since I've been talking about it, and others have been talking about it. All of you are aware that we live in a very competitive global economy. And for us to succeed as a nation in this global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. There is something beyond absurd, I don't know what the correct word is, that we have today hundreds of thousands of bright, young people, kids who have done well in school, who are qualified to get a higher education, to go to college, and yet are unable to get that education because their families lack the income to pay for that education. Now, this is absurd in at least two important ways. Number one, when you deny young people the ability to get a higher education, you're essentially taking the ladder of opportunity away from them. That's number one, and that is very unfair for working class kids, lower income kids who want to make it into the middle class. You're saying, I'm sorry, you were born poor, you're not going to have that opportunity to advance yourself. That's wrong. But what is even crazier is when we talk about the future of the American economy, what sense does it make to deny young people the opportunity to expand their intellectual capabilities to become the scientists and the engineers and the doctors and the nurses and the teachers and the other professions that we desperately need? And that is why I have introduced legislation, and will make certain that it happens if elected president, to make sure that every public college and university in America is tuition free. Doing that is manifold. It is not just good news for some kid who's in high school who otherwise could not go to college. But you know what it says? It says to a kid today in Laconia, New Hampshire, who's in the 5th or 6th grade, whose family may not have a lot of money. What it says to that kid is, if you study hard, if you do your homework, in fact, you are going to be able to go to college. Don't give up. You can do it. It will have a profound impact on education at every level. Now, the twin issue, the other issue in terms of higher education financing, is the absolute insanity of our nation forcing millions of young people and not so young people to carry the horrific burden of student debt for decades. For decades. I have talked last year, had a meeting with a young woman whose crime in life was that she graduated medical school and became a primary care physician working with low-income people, which is exactly the kinds of doctors we need all over this country. And yet, Because she did that, she left school $300,000 in debt. And I said, whoa, that's really off the wall. Well, I was in Iowa last month. I mentioned this. Some young woman comes up and she says, well, Senator, I just graduated dental school this week. I am $400,000 in debt. And this is at a time when we desperately need more dentists because we have a major crisis in accessible and affordable dental care. So what are we going to do? We are going to not only make tuition free for public colleges and universities, we are going to significantly lower interest rates on student debt. Explain to me what sense it makes when you can go out today and refinance your home, as my wife and I did, at 2 or 3% interest rate, and yet you are stuck with interest rates on your student loans of 7, 9, 10%. So our legislation says you can refinance your student loans, get lower interest rates. Second of all, the government makes billions of dollars every single year off the backs of low-income and working families who have had to borrow money to send their kids to college. The government should not be making profit off of families who wanted to send their kids to college. If we do those two things, get the government out of the business of making profits on student debt and allow people to refinance their loans, we can cut interest rates by more than half, and that's what we've got to do. All right, let me touch on another issue, and that is a very significant and broad political issue. And that is that we have a Republican Party right now, and I should tell you, I am the ranking member of the Budget Committee, which means I'm leader of the Democrats in opposition to the Republican majority. So we spent a lot of time dealing with the budget that was passed, I'm guessing about 6 weeks ago. This is what was in the Republican budget. The Republican budget said that at a time when 35 million Americans have no health insurance, what they said is not that we should guarantee health care to all of our people, but we're going to throw another 27 million people off of health insurance by ending the Affordable Care Act and making massive cuts in Medicaid, which not only, by the way, will impact people's health insurance, it will make it harder for middle-class families to take care of their parents who are in nursing homes, which is largely paid by Medicaid. And then they said, well, yeah, it may be true that middle-class families are having a harder and harder time to send their kids to college, but we'll cut Pell Grants by $90 billion over a 10-year period. And then they said, well, yeah, it may be true that a lot of families in America are not making enough money to be able to feed their kids adequately. And we have over half the kids in America in public school who are on free or reduced lunch programs. But you know what we'll do? We're going to cut by billions of dollars nutrition programs, including the WIC program, which provides good quality food to low-income pregnant women and their children. We're going to do all of that stuff. But that's not enough. What we are also going to do, say the Republicans, is after we cut health care massively, after we cut education and nutrition and virtually every other program that middle-class and working-class families depend upon, oh, by the way, what we're going to do is give $250 billion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 0.2%. Now, I don't mind being attacked by the wealthy and the powerful. That's been the case for me for my whole life. In fact, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt said in 1936, I welcome their hatred because I must be doing something right. But this is what I do mind, and I mind it very much. I mind that in Vermont and in New Hampshire and in states all across this country, we have working class and middle class people who are voting for Republicans who are working night and day to lower their standard of living. That I mind very much. I mind that a working class person in New Hampshire is voting for a Republican who will make it harder for him or her to send their kid to college. I mind very much that they are voting for candidates who are literally going to take away health care benefits from their children and themselves. I mind it very, very much that they're voting for people who are going to help shut down plants in America, throw them out of work, and move their jobs abroad. Now, what we have got to do, and I'm going to work hard on this, but I need your help, is we need to go to our Republican friends who are working class or middle class and explain to them exactly what this Republican Party is about. Explain to them that it was the Koch brothers themselves who helped found the Tea Party. And it's time they learned about what the founders of their movement really stand for. Because these people, working class Republicans, do not believe that we should cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. They do not believe in a trade policy which allows corporations to ship their jobs abroad. They do not believe that we should cut nutrition programs for hungry kids. But what we have got to do is bring people together, working people together, and say, okay, maybe we have a difference of opinion on abortion. Maybe we have a difference of opinion on guns. Maybe we disagree on gay marriage. But at the very least, we have got to come together around an agenda that works for every working family in this country. It's tough stuff. You know, some of these folks are listening to Rush Limbaugh every day and Fox TV every day and all that stuff.
They're brainwashed.
And we have to understand, yes, all right, so we disagree on immigration, we disagree on this or that. But stop voting for people who want to make the rich richer and everybody else poor. We need to do that. It's not going to happen overnight, but we can do that. And by the way, I have been very critical of the Democratic Party for not having a 50-state strategy. It makes no sense to me that we have essentially abdicated large parts of America to right-wing Republicans. I have been, in the last year, I have been to great meetings in states like Alabama, South Carolina, Texas. We had a meeting, I saw a gentleman there from the IBEW. You there from the IBEW? There he is, okay. And we had a meeting in an IBEW hall in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'd say it was half black, half white. It was an emotional meeting. It was a great meeting. And the question we discussed is, how does it happen that in a state like Mississippi, one of the poorest, if not the poorest state in America, people are voting for candidates who make the rich richer and the poor even poorer? How does that happen? That is the issue that we have got to address. And I'm not going to tell you that we solve it overnight. But I will be in Mississippi, and I will be in Alabama, and we are going to talk to folks about standing up for their interest and stop voting for candidates who represent the wealthiest people in this country.